if you have if you want to go through some of your reasons for believing in Muhammad, we're ready for that.
All right. So, like I said, I've revised my position over the years. I used to cite liberals and atheists and things like that, and people would always point the finger, saying that, well, you're pointing the finger at Christianity. Well, three fingers are pointing back at you because those arguments can be thrown back against Islam. So I've read conservative scholars, I've read evangelical scholars. I bought some evangelical books from, Dan Wallace, et cetera, et cetera. And I actually found out that there were serious issues with the Bible. And I'll get to how that connects to the prophethood of Muhammad in a second. So, another thing I forgot to mention is at one point I was considering leaving Islam for Christianity. At one point, then I read the conservative literature, or the conservative authors and things like that. And even they admit that there were issues here. So if you guys want to clarify that up in the Q&A, you can do that. So how does this connect back to Muhammad? You're saying, what does this have to do with the Prophet Muhammad? Well, first of all, what is the need? Why was Muhammad sent to begin with? Why couldn't Revelation just end with Jesus, like Christians say? Well, there was a need. My view is that there was a need for a final prophet. If you read the Quran, chapter 5, verse 13 to 15, it says the Jews had a covenant, but they messed it up. The Christians had a covenant, but they forgot the good part of the message. Now has come a messenger revealing what used to hide in your scriptures and things like that. This is the Quran, chapter 5, verse 13 through 15. So if you read Tafsir Ibn Kathir is a important commentator on the Quran. He talks about how these verses are clearly, our Prophet Muhammad is saying that the Jews and Christians have corrupted their scriptures. So then we need to really validate, well, is that true or not, or is Muhammad just making this stuff up? I've read, let's go to the Old Testament, because the Quran has specific, the Quran says that the Bible, the Old Testament, is, or the scriptures of the Jews is corrupt. In the Quran chapter 2, verse 75, Quran chapter 2, verse 79, Quran chapter 3, verse 78, Quran chapter 3, verse 187, Quran chapter 5, verse 13 to 14, as confirmed in Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Quran chapter 6, verse 91, et cetera, et cetera. And the Prophet Muhammad said the Jews and Christians have corrupted their scriptures in Mujal al-Kabir, volume 8, page 31, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, volume 4, page 381. So is this valid? Is what Muhammad is saying correct, or is he just making stuff up just to validate his prophethood? And so I read, like I said, I read conservative scholars, I read Judeo-Christian scholars, while ignoring the atheists I used to cite Barterman, Richard Carrier, et cetera, these liberal atheist scholars. But I don't do that anymore in the name of try to be consistent or fair with the Christian scriptures. But anyways, if we read Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8, in the Living English Bible, or in the Bible in Living English, page 9, it says Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 is speaking about the fact that the text of the Torah during Jeremiah's day was so corrupt that he can say that falsehood has been deliberately put into it. And it would be hard for us to prove that the text we have today is not the same one Jeremiah was written. And if we read Adam Cohen's commentary on Jeremiah 8,
At the Shem. Did a fan or something just come on?
Well, you can hear me because his voice is cutting off.
Yeah. Yeah, you're. What is that?
Yeah, what's worse is that his voice cut off. So you're saying something about Jeremiah being
I couldn't hear you because something got really loud. Wait, now it went away. It sounds like a loud fan or air conditioner or something came on.
Yeah, no, hold on. It's that's mine. I'm gonna turn off, but his mic cut off when he was talking. So I'm gonna turn off, but hold on.
Yeah, turn yours off, Sam, just so I can see what the noise is. Okay, that might have been from Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, what's my thing?
Yeah,
but anyway, his sound went off.
Yeah, hence me. Well, your sound is probably drowning it out because you guys are coming through the same mic. Hence me telling you over and over again, silence your mic. You didn't. Okay, now you're silenced. Now you're good. All right, go ahead. Continue, Itsham.
All right.
You
Did
might
I,
you
did I cut-
you might yeah you might want to back it up. It was only like 10 seconds or so when after hearing the noise. So just back up a little bit.
All right, so I'll just talk about Jeremiah 8:8, chapter 8, verse 8, real quick.
Okay.
So basically, the corruption of the Bible, proves the case for the prophet moment. In the Bible, the Living English, page 9, it says Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 is talking about the fact that the text of the Torah during the day of Jeremiah was so corrupt he can say falsehood has been deliberately put in it. And it would be hard for us to prove that the text we have today is the same one Jeremiah was condemning. So basically, Adam Clark's commentary also confirms this. Adam Clark was a Protestant scholar and things like that. So basically, Judeo-Christian scholars are saying that Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 is talking about the corruption of the Torah, corruption of the previous books. So this validates Muhammad's claim that the Bible is corrupt and things like that. Now, in unknown authorship of the New Testament, we have, for example, Raymond Brown in his book Introduction to the New Testament talks about, how the Gospels were originally anonymous and later on people put those names, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in there. In page 158, 208 to 267. Again, Craig L. Blomberg says that the Gospels are anonymous and of unknown authorship. In Lee Strobel, The Case for Christ, page 23. The Oxford Annotated Bible, page 2113, the authorship of Hebrews is anonymous. 1 John is anonymously attributed on page 2137, et cetera, et cetera. And Bruce Metzger in his book, The New Testament, its corruption, its transmission, corruption, and restoration, says that, it talks about textual people adding things into the Bible, taking it out, like the whole Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verse 9 through 20, and things like that. So people were adding things, taking things out of the Bible. So I think this validates Muhammad's claim that the Bible is corrupted, or at least edited, because as Judeo-Christian scholars themselves are admitting this. So basically, this is one of the reasons I think Muhammad was sent to tell people to go back to the teachings, the true teachings of the God of Abraham, without following these distorted books, as the Judeo-Christian history and scholars have shown. So then the question really arises: what is the biblical criteria of a prophet? Because David Wood and Sam Shamoun are Christians, so they follow the Bible. I'm guessing they're Protestant Christians, so they follow, the 66 books of the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. So what is the criteria of a prophet? According to the Bible, according to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 13, verse 18, he must command the people to worship the God they know. Did the Prophet Muhammad do that? Yes. He said, worship one God, the God of the Jews. And another criteria is give true event or miracle. Deuteronomy chapter 13.
Just one second. You're breaking up there for a second. So normally that's just a little. Go back to after you mentioned biblical criteria of a prophet. You started breaking up a little bit. Should be fine. There's normally just breakups last a couple of seconds there. So just repeat that part and then move and then go ahead. You mentioned biblical criteria of a prophet, and then you started breaking up a little bit when you were going through your first point. So.
Oh, okay. So the biblical criteria for a prophet is he must command the people to worship the God they know. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 18. The Prophet Muhammad did that. Give a true prophecy of a future event or miracle. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 18. Prophet Muhammad did that. Not claim to be the Messiah or Elijah. Gospel of John, the Prophet Muhammad did that. So again, we need to biblical criteria for a prophet, because there are a lot of Christians watching, and we're judging Muhammad from the Bible, at least for the sake of simplicity. So we need to look at what the Bible says or judge Muhammad according to the Bible. So then, now, some might say, Yahweh is the name of God, and Allah's not the name of God. But the problem is that it's not in the New Testament. It's replaced with the Greek word kurios. Kurios means Lord. So not even the Greek manuscripts of the New Testament say Yahweh or the Tetragrammaton. It's kurios. So if Christians want to say Muhammad's a false prophet because he didn't say Yahweh, well, the New Testament fails that very test. The New Testament does not say that word. It says simple as that. So some of the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad gave many prophecies. It's found in Sahih Bukhari, book 2, number 48, or Bukhari, book 50. I don't have time to go over them, but over all of them. But I'll give just 2 examples. The Prophet Muhammad said that before the end of the world, there'll be Arabs building tall buildings, and we see this happening today in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Dubai. Sahih Bukhari, volume 1, book 2, page 48, Bukhari, book number 50, fire in the land of Hijaz. The Prophet Muhammad said that a fire will take place, towards the end of time, and it'll go all the way to Basra, which is modern-day Iraq. And this prophecy actually did come true. Sahih Bukhari, book 9, page 152, hadith 7118. So, and then the miracles of Muhammad. What miracle? Ibn Kathir's biography, Prophet Muhammad healed people. Somebody was blind. The Prophet Muhammad healed them. Prophet Muhammad split the moon in half. And Sahih Bukhari 3637, Sahih Muslim 2802, Tirmidhi 3289, etc., etc. So we see that Prophet Muhammad did prophecies. He did miracles, etc. So these are some of the proofs of the Prophet Muhammad, or how he fits into a criteria of being a prophet. We see prophecies being fulfilled, we see miracles. There are prophecies of the Quran, and there's scientific accuracy in the Quran. But just to save time, in the Q&A, if people want to hear that, I can do that. But just to save time, I'm going to try to skip over that. So then the question really arises: what about the moral issues, right? Did Muhammad do bad things? Did he do things that people would say, according to the biblical criteria, did he do bad things that would invalidate him from being a prophet? As Christians will say, Muhammad was immoral because he did this, yada, yada, that. So my question is, what standards are you using against the Prophet Muhammad's morality? Because whatever Muhammad did, both the Old and New Testaments have the same morals, or they have worse morals than what the Prophet Muhammad did. So if you're saying Prophet Muhammad waged war, that invalidates him from being a prophet. Well, Moses fought wars too, so does that invalidate him from being a prophet? Keep in mind that we're judging Muhammad from the Bible. We're not judging him from atheist standards and things like that. See what else. So we gotta judge the moral issues. Well, when you go into morality, I think there's a subjective argument. I think people like David Wood can agree with me that this can be a subjective argument, and things like that. Then what about, was Muhammad sincere in what he was doing? And I think he was. The Prophet Muhammad, where he had to give all his money in charity, etc., etc. So the Prophet Muhammad had no reason to invent a religion like Islam. That's just my thoughts on this. Prophet Muhammad suffered and even faced death to spread Islam. A non-Muslim writer, Montgomery Watt and William Moyer, concluded that Prophet Muhammad was sincere. He wasn't lying to the people, saying, this book is coming to him from the divine realm or from God and stuff like that. Also, the Quran corrects the Prophet Muhammad. So if the Muhammad was really making up the Quran, why would he author a book that criticizes himself? It doesn't make any sense. So did Prophet Muhammad plagiarize? Did Muhammad plagiarize off Jews and Christians? I don't think so, because like I said before, Prophet Muhammad believed that the Jews and Christians have corrupted their scriptures. So if he believed they corrupted their scriptures, why would he plagiarize off them? It doesn't make any sense. And when the Quran mentions stories that you can find in these Jewish or Christian apocryphal sources, that doesn't mean the Quran's copying. It just means that they could come from the same source, or there could be some historical veracity towards them, and things like that. What about self-serving verses? Did Prophet Muhammad make up the Quran, to to have some kind of self-serving motive and things like that. I think that's a fallacious argument. It's called the fallacy of circumstantial ad hominem. So it's a fallacious argument to say Prophet Muhammad made up the Quran and things like that. They'll argue, well, how come Prophet Muhammad had more than 4 wives, or they'll bring that up, saying, isn't that self-serving? Well, the issue is that the problem is that the polygamy was already established before Islam. So even though the Prophet had special privileges, he also had restrictions too. And the wives of the Prophet Muhammad are spiritual mothers in the Quran, chapter 33, verse 6, et cetera, et cetera. So was Muhammad demon possessed? People would say, well, maybe he was just demon possessed, or maybe Angel Gabriel became a demon or something like that. I don't think so. If you read the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 16, Angel Gabriel brings revelation, and he has a terrifying presence. Book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 17, book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 12, etc. So what the Prophet Muhammad saw matches what the Bible says about angels bringing revelation and things like that. But critics will say, well, Muhammad thought he saw a demon in the cave, and doesn't that mean that he was demon possessed or tricked by Satan and things like that? I don't think so. I think that was the real Angel Gabriel that he saw. Let's see here. What else I wanted to say?
Itashem, it's been about 16 minutes, but we had a couple minutes of technical difficulties, but I think we're clearly over 10. So if you want to just give a kind of final statement right now on this, and then we'll jump into a discussion.
All right, so the sources of the Prophet Muhammad, let me just talk about that. A lot of critics will use Ibn Ishaq, al-Waqidi, Ibn Sa'd, al-Tabari. The problem is none of those sources are reliable. Ibn Ishaq is not reliable, as Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Imam Malik have said that Ibn Ishaq is careless in compiling his information. In fact, I have Ibn Ishaq's book right here, and in the beginning of the book, there are scholars who say why it's not authentic. So this is mainly not authentic book. I don't know if people can see that or not. Al-Waqidi was also known to be a liar by Muslim scholars. Ibn Sa'd was a weak source. Al-Tabari, volume 6 to volume 9, talks about the life of the Prophet Muhammad. The problem is Al-Tabari warns people those books are filled with weak and authentic narrations. And Al-Tabari, volume 1, page 170 to 171. So you might be saying, what is the authentic biography? It's Ibn Hisham, volume 1 to volume 6, and then we have Hadith, Bukhari, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Abu Dawud, Ibn Majah, Tirmidhi, etc. Then we have Hadith commentaries that the critics don't use. So that's the sources of Islam and stuff like that. So that's my case for Muhammad. There was a lot of other things, but because of time, I can't get into it.
All right, thank you, Itashem and Sam. If you want to unmute your mic, so looks like we have several things we could take a look at. Itashem opened his case by pointing out that Muhammad affirms the corruption of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, and the evidence bears that out and shows that Muhammad was right. We have Muhammad fulfilling biblical criteria of a prophet, such as delivering fulfilled prophecies and performing miracles. We have the scientific accuracy of the Quran. Itashem didn't go into detail, but he said he could if people want to in the chat. He said, as far as moral problems with Muhammad, then if we're judging Muhammad by the standards of the Bible, well, obviously prophets in the Bible did some bad things as well. He argued that Muhammad was sincere, that Muhammad didn't plagiarize, that and that a lot of criticisms against Muhammad are drawn from weak sources. So that is a lot to cover.